Okay, so I'm going to redo the tutorial that I did, partially because I made a mistake last time. So today I'm making a tutorial about how to do literary analysis using text references from the book. Now, luckily, one of the kids found a digital copy of the book, which he posted here. So we're going to use that as our reference. Use that, and then we have our notes here. So here's our book, Booked, by Kwame Alexander. And what we are going to look at is this topic that I've given to the children, which is topic 3, several characters offer Nick advice during the events in Booked. Examine how this advice helps Nick deal with the changes occurring in his life. And I hate that, so I'm going to redo it. Bye. Good. Okay, now, the quote from the book. We're actually going to look at this bottom one because that's the one we did in class. So the quote is here, and I didn't put a page number, but I do have a page number. It is like page 290, 70 something, 270 something. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, conversation with Dr. Fraud. So, we get down to this quote, which is, "Tell me how you feel about your mother leaving. I feel like I'm drowning. What will it take for you to get above water? I don't know. It's out of my control. She's not coming back and they're getting divorced. Can you swim? Yeah. So if you feel like you're drowning and you know how to swim, then maybe you can get above water." That sounds crazy. So then we've seen in this book how they use italics to show dialogue. So we know that this speaker is not Nick, the main character, but this is the psychologist that he calls Dr. Fraud. Now, we know from earlier in the book that Nick has learned at school, and he also knows from his dictionary about malapropism. Malapropism is like a slight mistake in how you say a word. It's supposed to be funny. So this guy's name is not actually Dr. Fraud. Fraud, as we found out in our lesson, is fraud means fake. And the malapropism is that Freud was a famous psychologist, but it's very close to fraud. So what we discussed in class was how this means that Nick did not like his psychologist at the beginning. It did not think that going to counseling would help. Now, when we examine the core part of this quote, because the question is, what does it mean, right? We are looking for our literary devices. So then we have to identify some literary devices here. So if you feel like you're drowning, the like is a key point here, and many of the kids were able to point out that this part is a simile. Feeling like you're drowning is a negative feeling. Feeling like you can't breathe, right? But he's not actually drowning. He just feels like he's drowning. Now, when we look at the rest of it, this is where it's a little more complicated. Why are they talking about swimming? The psychologist says if you know how to swim, maybe you can get above water. And when we look at that, this is part of the simile, yes, but it is also a metaphor. They are comparing swimming to something. To what? And this what is what you as a literary analysis have to decide. What we decided in class is swimming is like a kind of action, or it's like a skill. We learn it. We learn how to do it. And if you know this action or skill, then maybe you can get above water. So the idea of get above water, that's the idea of you can save yourself. If we look at this advice, It is actually not great swimming advice. If you're drowning at a community pool or in the ocean, you are not supposed to just try to swim your way out. You're supposed to scream for help or like wave your arms in the air so that people know that you need help, and somebody else is supposed to save you. That's what a lifeguard is for. Now, however, in this case, we're not talking about drowning. We're talking about living. So then I put these ones here. So then those are typed out. Now we get to the most difficult part. In this box, we are talking about how does this help Nick deal with the changes in his life? And that's really the tricky part. For this part, we have to answer two questions. The first one is, does it help Nick? And that has a backup question. How do we know it helps Nick? And we know that somebody is being helped because we see a change. So what we are looking for is a change. And in order to understand that, we have to read the rest of the book. So if you are looking at this, and we go to the next page, page 274, and I should put the page number here. This is page 270, what are we on? 273, okay. Hi, Tyler. Can you temp check and go to the center? I'm trying to record this tutorial that I messed up yesterday. Okay, so we're looking for a change. This could be a change in how they act, or it could be a change in the events of the book. So if we're looking here, we say, the psychologist keeps asking Nick questions. So, are you getting sleep at night? I was, probably not now. Why not? Because I'll be thinking about my mom. How long has she been gone? 3 days this time. Have you spoken to her? When she got to her new house, she called. And since then, nope. Maybe you should call or text her. Yeah. It's hard for her and for you, and as hard as it is, regular communication is what gets things back to normal. Normal? Yeah, right. Okay, so now we get to the suggestion. The advice from the psychologist is the action they want is maybe you should talk to your mom, text your mom. Text or call your mom. We know that because he says it on page 274, and you should write that down as your text reference. And so then when you text or call your mom, then that's your action. So now we have to see, did he take that advice? Now, the advice is because the psychologist is saying that change is hard for all of us. We figure out how to cope, how to adapt, and eventually things do get back to normal. So then what we are looking for in the rest of the book is Nick accepting the advice. We know Nick accepts the advice because whereas before he's been very short with answers and not sharing about himself, he tells Dr. Fraud about Tupac, that it's his favorite rapper. This is him communicating. He's communicating with his therapist, which is new. So let's check. Okay, next page, page 276. We have a chapter called Regular Communication. And what it is Nick texts Mom. It says, "Hey Mom, I'm good, though my toenails have grown so long that my hooves hurt bad." April says hi. And if we keep going, we see him go about his life, go back to Miss Quattlebaum's. And then another regular communication on page 279. It's just talking about Cheetos and grape soda. Whoops. Here we go again. And we can go through the rest of the book and look for evidence of him talking to Mom. And then there's a text from her. This is Nick to his mom. And then page 286, this is Mom to Nick. She's happy that he's texting her. She says it. And then here's a 287. We're going Nick to Mom again, regular communication. And as we go through the rest of the book, we see that they're communicating fairly regularly. And we see the argument is that they're That his texts are becoming happier.
6.
Right. 298. Hey, Mom. Mom calls immediately, so then they're talking on the phone. And then you see that Nick is feeling better. We can pull that evidence from a lot of places in the book. Although this is about the fight in the pool. So, when we go to make an argument here, we need evidence. So here's our evidence. Nick does take the advice. In this case, he's not learning to swim. He's learning how to cope and adapt, which is the language that was used on page 270 something. 274. We cope and adapt to change. And if you were writing this in an essay, this would be a very strong construction from the quote to a look at the literary devices, and then to your argument of whether what was it was it helpful, was it significant, and how did it help Nick deal with the changes occurring in his life. Okay, now for some reason all of the kids here are here early today, so then I will sign off. Thank you. Okay, I think I got it, guys. Thank you very much for your quietness.